right, guys. Weed control in a soil health situation and no-till situation. As far as the no-till goes in corn, I don't see anything different. I'm doing the exact same programs that I did when I was tillage. I'm using the same programs my neighbors are using with their tillage. Our timing might be slightly different. That early flush of weeds, if we get an early spring to where we get some warm weather before we can get planting, there might be a flush of some weeds. You get some dandelions and other winter perennials like that, and some cool season grasses. For us, it'd be a quack and a crabgrass are going to be the really dominant hurt. They're going to be the weeds that put the hurt on us in the spring if you don't get them under control. Well, the tillage guys, they're going to wipe that out with that finisher pass in the spring. The no-till guy, I'm going to wipe that out with my pre-emerge chemical program. It's the similar chemistry as the tillage guy. The only difference is in that chemistry program, there's some burn down ability to take care of that weeds. Well, they have the same burn down ability. They're just using tillage, and they're not really taking advantage of the burn down. We're both taking advantage of the residual part of it. But corn's pretty easy. Beans, on no-till beans, again, that pre-emerge, the timing of the pre-emerge might have moved around a little bit. Maybe it's ahead of the planter, a little bit sooner than the tillage guys, just because of that flush of grass and dandelions or whatever. But again, it's still a two-pass system. It's 90%, 99% the same as anybody else doing a two-pass program around me on conventional tillage. Just maybe my days applied might be a little bit different. But once the first one's down, in 15 or 20 days, you put the second one down. It is what it is. That's how the program works. You can't have the first one run completely out of steam and then hope the second one can do a burn down and then carry on. You need some overlap of chemistry there to keep a good solid window during that peak germination of weed time. In a soil health situation where we're bringing in cover crops, on corn, pretty simple. If you're going on the young corn, V2, V3, I'd do like a Roundup or atrazine, whatever non-residual pre-burn down is. Maybe atrazine has some residue. I don't know. I don't know much about atrazine. I don't like to use atrazine. I use it in some products. I don't know how much real residual there is. But you're going to do a burn down of something, and with extremely minimal residual. And then at V2, V3, you're coming in with your cover crop, because the point of your cover crop is that that's going to hold back your weeds for you. On soybeans, or on corn, if you're coming in late corn, V5, V6, or even later, and you're coming in, flying it in, however you're doing it late season with a high boy, then you're probably going to go with a traditional pre-emerge to keep the field clean until that point. Soybeans, there's a couple of scenarios to do it. You could try it the organic way, go into a rye, and then terminate the rye. I guess I wouldn't be 100% organic, because if you didn't want to relay the rye out, I would just do a chemical burn. Or if you wanted to roll it ahead, for us, the rolling ahead isn't an option. So I sometimes forget that there are people out there that would have to roll the rye ahead of planting because they have rye 5 feet high. For us, the rye is barely going to be up and running. You're going to have some green, and then we're going to be planting into it. And then we're just going to do a burn down after planting to control that rye, to help control moisture. Others might try to relay crop the rye out for additional revenue on a per acre basis. And then behind the rye, you come back in with another pass of like some oats or something to keep green on the ground, to keep living on the ground, to keep the competition going, so you don't have a flush of weeds, or to help reduce the flush of weeds in the fall. And then you have the potential of another grass cutting behind the combine for more additional revenue of the soybean acre. Other guys plant into the rye. They do a burn down with their regular residual, their regular pre-emerge. They do a burn down on the rye with the long residual. Then 15, 20 days later, they come back with their regular second pass burn down and residual. They're using the rye to help get that little extra weed control shoved through the season, to help their regular two-pass program, give it just that extra little and to keep a clean field for the season, and it's working very well for them. So the cover cropping is weird, and you watch your families, if you put a grass crop in corn, if it's not Roundup Ready corn, then you need to really study your chemicals to find how am I going to control this grass that I introduced into my corn that for some reason I'm not liking it, and I need to control it. That's always a scenario brought up, but I kind of question that scenario. If you have done your research on what cover crops to try and plant, you're obviously not throwing sorghum sudan or a sunflower or something that can get very tall and produce a seed head into your corn crop at a very early time in the season, so you actually have another grain out there that you're going to have to screen out. No, you're going into corn with your cool season grasses and brassicas and stuff like that, and some broadleafs and whatever mix you got going on. So I can't understand why you would want to control your cover crop in the field, and I have a hard time seeing you would have a hard weed pressure issue if you had a quality cover crop stand in your cornfield. If your cover crop is just coming up and all of a sudden you get a flush of some weeds somehow, I suppose that scenario could happen, and then you just need to do a rescue. But at that point, you might as well just do a rescue and burn your cover crop down and call it a wash, because you're never going to find a chemical that can not harm the corn, not harm your ryegrass, not harm your brassicas, and not harm your broadleaves, but kill that specific broadleaf. That's going to be a really hard chemical to find. So some of these scenarios that you hear people talk about, I can't fathom. Again, my small brain has a hard time wondering, well, under what scenario is that needed? And so as a rescue attempt, you use whatever chemicals you need to use to clean up your row crop. Otherwise, just kind of watch the residual days to when you want to plant your cover crop to make sure you can plant your cover crop. And so, guys, I think that's pretty short, sweet, simple. It is what it is, and we'll go from there. All right, thank you very much for watching. Discussion below, you know it. What are you guys doing for chemical programs in your no-till? If you're cover cropping, what kind of chemical programs do you got going on for that? So, all right, guys, keep it going below. Thanks for watching.